everybody to always, at least for demo purposes, to use the window layout and default. And that way everybody's looking at the same default layout. So all of these panels are modular. You can move them around. You can put them wherever you want. Sometimes for testing, this game thing, I'll move it over here so I can see what's going on while also see the actual scene that I'm working with. But I'm going to put it back. OK, so hierarchy, this is a representation of everything that is in your project. So like A-Frame, there's, and I think Spark AR maybe, there is a scene. Every scene is going to need a camera, and every scene by default has a directional light. All of these can be gotten rid of, or yeah, you can, but anything that is in your game world is going to be represented in the hierarchy. You can add things to the hierarchy by using this dropdown. You can also go to game object and add from there. I just right click and then add in the things that I want. This is a representation of your game world in production. Scene, sorry. Scene is a representation of your game world in production, and you can see that there's X, Y, Z coordinates. This is what gets exported when you test. It moves over to the game. You can maximize it on play if you want. Looks like somebody needs to. OK, we've lost somebody. The inspector shows you all of the details for anything that's selected, whether it's a game object. You can see all the properties for the main camera and the primary transformation.
Yeah, man.
What's that?
Sorry.
OK. In the inspector, this is where we can change things, move things around. Then assets, this is where we add in all our assets, and console is where we'll see any errors. If you see yellow errors, it's fine, just keep going. If you see red errors, then there's something that needs to be fixed and it will no longer work. OK, any questions so far? So what we're going to do is, I now have an empty 3D project. I'm going to import the Vuforia engine. And under Windows, there's Package Manager. And under Unity Registry, it will show all the packages that are registered with Unity. It takes a moment for them all to load. But when they first load, it's the packages that are automatically built into this empty project. So you can see here, there's packages. And so there's already a bunch of packages that are already in the empty project. OK, if I scroll down, I can see Vuforia Engine is here. However, it's 8.1.12. That's not, this is published May 23rd, 2019. I don't want that one. So I'm not going to hit install. So packages, think of like, what people built for independently for A-Frame. You can think of similarly for Unity, that there's different developers that are building things that can be used as packages in Unity. And you can even export your own project as a package, which I'll show if there's time. So I'm going to close this out because this is not the latest version. So I'm going to go to the asset store. So if the asset store isn't already open in the center panel, go ahead and open it. And there's this is where you can find all sorts of things to import into your project. So again, it's in the cloud. It'll take a moment to load. And I'm going to use the search field to pull up the Vuforia engine. Connecting to asset store, come on. Okay, there it is. So I already searched for it. Other related packages may show up, like this AR VR mixed reality from Google VR, but we want this one, Vuforia. And if I click into it, you can see I already downloaded it. It's free. So in my case, I already downloaded it. So this blue button doesn't say download, it says import. I can see that it's 9.7.5, so it's a later version than the one that was available to me through the package manager. And you can read a description, you can look at the contents, etc. So if I'm looking for a new package, I might search around. I'm going to import it. And there'll be some warnings because there's already scripts that are built into this project. So here's a Vuforia engine. This is the import Unity package. And I want all of this stuff. Sure, I'm not going to go through here and turn this stuff off. I'm just going to go ahead and click import. So this stuff will be added into my project assets. The package will also be included here. Would you like to update your project? Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to click through these various updates. And again, I'm a little worried about time, so I'm kind of moving along here. And so in the assets, it's really important to keep everything organized. So if you think about primitives like a sphere or a cube, if you want that to have a graphical appearance other than the mesh, then you need to add materials. So for example, I would create a folder for textures where I would put my PNGs or JPEGs, and then I would create a separate folder for materials that will be applied to whatever 3D object I'm giving the representation of, I don't know, sand or like a plane that is supposed to look like a tiled floor, etc. So all of the assets should be organized carefully, and this is taking a little longer than I expected. So as this loads, how many of you have already downloaded the Unity Hub and Unity and are following along with Unity Open? Anybody? Joseph, great. Okay, Michael, not Derek. Nora is, great. Okay, so hopefully, I know like these hiccups, all this cloud business, it's a bit slow for me, but I'm trying, yeah. So a lot of this has to do with your internet connection. You've got Zoom streaming on one hand, then we've got Unity as a plugin. Exactly, yeah, then there's, okay, done, all right. All these folders have been added: common, editor, resources, sample resources, and then the only one that was already here is scenes. So if you go into common, you can see that there's these, this is the icon for Vuforia editor. These are going to be the C# scripts, and you get a preview of it here. But if I double click it, it'll open in Visual Studio. If you downloaded Unity, it comes wrapped, Visual Studio comes wrapped with it, and it's one that already has the Unity library built into it. But you can also switch to whatever editor you prefer. Resources, we're going to use this Vuforia configuration. We're going to use that resource in a little bit. Sample resources, so there's some samples that you can check out here. So you can see there's an AR camera. I'm going to go back to scene, get out of my asset store. And there's an AR camera. with its directional light, and there's this 3D astronaut here. So this is, if you were to do the Vuforia tutorials, this is what they walk you through, is making this 3D rendering of this 2D astronaut when you point your mobile device to it. Okay, so I'm going to go to scenes, and I'm going to create a new scene. And what I'm doing here is I'm right-clicking. There's a few ways to do this. You can go to assets and create, and everything that you can add as an asset is here. But I tend to, similar as the hierarchy, I tend to just right-click. And I'm going to go create and create a new scene. And I'm going to call it Vuforia Demo. I tend to not use spaces, so I use camelback to represent 2 words, and I'm going to click into that scene. So now you can see I have a totally empty scene. It's called Vuforia Demo. There's a main camera and a directional light. I'm going to delete this main camera. So this main camera is if I was creating, you know, a desktop game or project. So I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to delete this main camera because I'm not going to use that. I need an AR camera. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click again in the hierarchy. And because I imported the Vuforia Engine package, I have all these objects that are available. So I need an AR camera. Now I have an AR camera, and you can see that if I were preview it, it's black because this camera is not showing me the game world. It's more associated with your mobile device's camera. Let's see. I'm checking my notes, see if I'm missing anything. Okay, so the Vuforia license key and database are used in the Vuforia engine configuration. So the default way that Vuforia works is with image recognition. Image recognition, also called tracker recognition or image tracking, is a process by which the camera detects a predetermined image and knows what to do with it, such as rendering some content on top of it. So this demo is specific to the next project for class, which is an AR project. And the way to think about this project is, I don't know how many people have tried augmented reality books, but imagine it like you're creating a book, like a physical book, but when the reader wants to download the app for the book, you can then look at certain content in the book and it'll augment what the book presents through multimedia, whether it's through animation or video or even a game. So that's what the next project is, and that's why we're using Vuforia for the first Unity demo. So if you haven't already created a Vuforia account, do so. I'm going to jump back to, okay, so here is the Vuforia. I'm already logged in. It's free. There's a license manager and target manager tabs. So I'm going to go to license manager. I'm going to click get development key. So I'm getting a new key specifically for this project. I don't have to. I could use the same key that I've used for these other projects. So I'll call this Vuforia Demo 2. And I'm going to agree to their terms. You can see that there's up to 1,000 pulls that can be done per month. And what I mean by pulls is that I'm going to use Vuforia to generate a database of images that I use in my project. And those are going to be the images that, that are the target images to generate some virtual content on my mobile device. So I'll click confirm. So now I have this new Vuforia Demo 2. It has a key, and this is the key that I'm going to copy later into Let me close out some stuff here. I'm going to copy into my project. But what I want to do right now is I want to add some images. So I'm going to go to Target Manager, and I'm going to add a new database. I'm going to make sure it's set to device, and I'm going to call this database Vuforia demo. I already have 02, so I'll just call it Vuforia demo in class. And I'll go ahead and create that database. I'll jump into it. So now, if you downloaded the files, by the way, everything that I'm generating inside of Unity is being generated here in my Vuforia demo folder. So you can see Vuforia demo scene is now in my scenes folder here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to documents, xrdev, and I'm going to go to the folder that I asked you all to download week 04. So there's 2 images, 2 JPEGs, and those are the ones that are gonna make up my database. So at target, single image, I'm gonna browse to it. So AR demo print 1, open. So width, everything in virtual reality is measured in meters. The way that I set up this project is as if I were to print a book that is in landscape and is 9.5 inches by 8 inches. So 9.5 inches wide, 8 inches tall. So I had to translate inches to centimeters, and then I had to move my centimeters 2 decimals forward so that the width for what we're working on is 0.2413 meters, which was really 24 centimeters, 24.13 centimeters. So for things to work correctly, you want to make sure to get the sizing correctly. So just remember, meters. Everything's measured in meters. If whatever you're working on, always translate it to meters. Add a second target. And it's the same scale. And I'm going to go ahead and add. Now I could go ahead and download this database, or I can do this through Unity. So right now I've got a database. I've got a couple images to work with. I can go back to my license manager and go to the one I just created. So I'm going to click this, and it's going to copy to my clipboard. You can select it and copy it, but just clicking it works just fine. So now I am going to go back to Unity, and I'm going to go to, let me remember what's going on here as I run through this. All right. I have it on. So I'm going to go to my AR camera. I want it associated to something. Let me save this. It should be saving. Okay, so in the inspector, again, this is all the properties for this game object, for this AR camera. The positioning, the camera itself, it has an audio listener. And here where it says Vuforia behavior script, I want to open the Vuforia Engine configuration. So that is, I think in resources, Vuforia Engine configuration, yes. but I'm just showing you where it is as it's a resource. I'm going to open it, Vuforia Engine configuration, and where it says app license key, I'm going to go ahead and paste what is copied in my clipboard. I could click add license and it'll open my browser into my Vuforia Engine and then pull it from there. But I already have it in my clipboard, so I can just paste it there. Let's see, now I can tab down and see where it says databases, add database. I haven't downloaded the database, so I'm going to click add database. And here what that did is it opened a new tab in my browser. It's the same page we were looking at. And I'm going to go in here to the database I just created and download database. So I want this for Unity Editor, not the Android Studio, Xcode, or Visual Studio, but Unity Editor, and I'm going to click download. Now, this is just 2 images. It could be hundreds of images. So hopefully this, OK, so it downloaded. Now, it's a Unity package. So I can just go ahead and open this. It will open in Unity, and it'll open in import Unity package. So you can see my 2 images. I'm going to go ahead and import. All right, now, I want to see it. Vuforia demo in class. So my database has been added, where it's a databases and import. I can still add more databases, but it's here. I have it. It's been imported into the project along with the associated images. OK, let's see. All right, so now I want to add the images. So I'm going to get back to the hierarchy. And I'm going to go to Vuforia Engine, and I'm going to click Image Target. So this demo, again, it's about adding images and targeting them. So I have a new game object, Image Target. And what it is, I mean, all of these game objects are scripts and that are being visually represented by Unity so that I can use it more easily. So there's the image hasn't been added here. So I have 2 images that are, you can see all the images that came with the download of the So I see, oh, here it is. OK, so here's the first image. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. It's now, for image target, is now associated with that specific image. I can name it. So I'll call this Constitution, since it's the signing of the Constitution. If I scroll, and I'm using my scroll wheel to scroll into the space here, because this is tiny. Everything's in meters. This one's really small. So it has a width and height, but this is not the width and, not exactly the width and height. So I included this in today's presentation. So now it's the actual width and height from inches to centimeters to meters. Again, remember, everything's in meters. That's why it's so tiny. So I've got my image here. OK, check the appropriate size. All right, we're good. OK, just going over my notes. All right, so I'm going to create a 3D plane to add an augmented element. So when you select something and then either go here and add to it 3D object, and I want a plane. I got this giant plane. And you can see it's at the same level in the hierarchy as this constitution. But I want this plane to be parented to the constitution. So I'm going to move it and make sure that little arrow comes up and that the plane is parented to constitution. You can see it's now, there's a little indent and a collapse arrow has been created. So this plane is gigantic. I don't want it to be gigantic. So I'm going to go ahead and change the scale. So the scale is going to be 0.02 on the X, 0.02 on the Y, and 0.02 on the Z. And these represent the XYZ coordinates in 3D space. I'm going to move it up on the Y. So it's floating on top of the target image. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to introduce my textures. So I'm going to create a new folder. In my assets, I'm going to call it textures. And to textures, I'm going to drag and drop this PNG. So there's different ways of adding things into Unity. You can just drag and drop. So now I've got this, PNG image, but it's a transparent PNG, which doesn't look transparent right now. I want it to be transparent, so texture type. I'm going to go to Sprite 2D UI. And let's see, apply that. Okay, so now it's transparent the way I had hoped. So when you make changes in the inspector, so remember the inspector always represents all the properties for whatever selected, whether it's in the hierarchy that representing what the things in the game space or whether it's in your assets. So I'm happy with that. It looks good. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go back to my assets. And I want to add a material to this plane. What that material is, I want it to be a material that represents or is made up of this PNG. So I'm going to create a new folder once again. And I'm going to call it materials. And in my materials folder, I'm going to create a new element, which is material. So I'm going to call this, Iroquois material. You can see .mat is appended to it, so material isn't really necessary, but anyway, I use it anyhow. So the what I'm gonna pull my image and have it be what X, I'm running out of time. I'm gonna pull up my image and this is the texture that I imported, which is a PNG, and it's now being applied to this material. Let's see. I think I want to change some. I'm going to have this be transparent. Okay, so I'm changing the render mode to transparent. And now I'm going to click into plane. And where it says mesh render, there is an element 0 default material. I can click the little target and pull it in that way, or I can just drag it and drop it if I'm in the right assets. So now this material has been added. Um, this is a flat image, so I'm not going to have it cast shadows. I'm just going to turn that off. I'm not going to have it receive shadows. I'm going to turn that off. And then the shader, I don't like, there's this plane that's still around it. So I'm going to change the shader to sprite's default, because a sprite is when we think of sprites, think of any but 2D image. So now this is great, but what I see is that it's upside down in relation to the image. So I want this to not be upside down. I want to turn it so that they're both mirroring each other in format. So I'm going to use the transform and rotate it 180 degrees on the x coordinate. Okay, so now it's there. That's great, looking good. Let's see, it looks a little wide. It's a little stretched out, so I should probably change, play around with the scale, but I'm gonna leave that around alone for now. It's a good idea to rename things. So so Benjamin Franklin, before the revolution, before all that, was a big fan of the Iroquois and would go to the Iroquois Confederation gatherings. And it's believed that a lot of the Constitution was not so much based on England, but based on Iroquois nations. So that's why I did that illustration. All right. So let's test this now. I have that same image on, I didn't print it. So this is imagining a printing, and if I was making this into a book, I'm going to go ahead and test this. Okay, this is going to be interesting. I haven't tried this with Zoom, but I'm now testing, and there is my illustration. You can see it's stretched out wide. That's because the plane is stretched out. I didn't try to mirror, I didn't narrow the plane. It has to be narrowed. So, okay, it's working. Great. I'm going to turn that off. Now, I want a second image. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this game object, and I'm going to paste it. So I'm going to rename these. Instead of Constitution, I'll name this attack. No, attack. Sure. Attach, not attach. Attack. And the image that I want on attack is no longer this image, but I'm going to go ahead and select the second image. All right. And you can hide any game object by choosing it, and then in the inspector, clicking the check mark. So now I can see that other image. And I don't want Iroquois Nation to be what's represented here, so I'm going to delete that. And I uploaded for everybody this characters folder. So I'm going to go to the top level of my assets, and I'm going to go ahead and download characters. And so what's here is a 3D rendering low poly Trump. So I can add this by right-clicking and selecting a new 3D object. I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop it onto make sure it's parented. Okay, so it's huge. I don't want it to be huge. So let's see. I'm going to scale it down. to 0.01, 0.01, 0.01. Oh, now it looks tiny. I'm going to play around with values. Okay, there he is. All right, so the other thing, he's standing on top of that. So I'm going to rotate. I'm going to rotate on the Z coordinate. That's facing that way. Ah, there. Okay, that works. All right, there's no animation or anything being applied, but it's good enough. Maybe I'll add one other thing here. 3D object. I'm going to use Text Mesh Pro to add some text. Import TMP essentials. So I need to import Text Mesh Pro is what's recommended for 3D text. It's giant. I'm going to scale that down. The neighbor's dog is crying. And I'll rotate it on 90 degrees. Move this down. Okay, so we're gonna have to keep going. You know what? I'm gonna change this to okay, now the color, I'm just gonna use red. Colors. All right, I'll leave it like that for now. So I've got some text. Let's save this. Let's test it. Oh, wait, I turned that off. Whoops. Sorry, guys. We're about to wrap up. Let me turn this back on. It's the first image, and let me test it now. Okay, we've got that, and now, and now we've got that. Take the capital. So I could add audio, I could add video, I could add all sorts of things. Great, everything's working. Okay, so we're gonna have to stop there because we have a guest speaker. But what